There's a talk about STEM, Devt, and the rest. But the point is, education should work for us. There's always that saying, infamous, I should say, school na scam. But so far, we've seen arguments for and against. So yet again, let's explore this conversation. And we're joined on the program by four gentlemen. Dr. Abdusabur Salam is the National Vice President and Chairman, Western Zone Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, joins us virtually. We also have Chirota Akazeme, who's an educational strategist, neurodiversity advocate, an education specialist, as I said, joins us from Berkshire, UK, and Enimian Inegbedion, who is a founder Arcadia School of Lagos, also joining us virtually from Lekki. And right here in our studio is Mr. Mojeed Alabi, Chairman, Education Writers Association of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning.
Well, naturally,
good morning.
Good morning. Let me begin with Dr. Salam. And this is a very interesting one, because you just look at the front pages, particularly leadership, says that growing concern over quality of private schools on the one hand, and then you see below that there's poor funding for public schools. So it looks like wherever you turn, there's one challenge or the other, and I'm talking across levels. So let's just start by taking your view of these challenges, because we say education is the bedrock, but it doesn't look like we're paying as much attention to that bedrock. So you wonder, what are we building on the bedrock if we're not even paying attention to bedrock?
Well, thank you very much. I think just as you said, there are so many contradictions and so many problems with respect to the education sector in Nigeria. Looking at where we are today, you'll find out that our educational sector is not at all where it should be in terms of funding, in terms of state of facilities, in terms of welfare for service providers, and in terms of every other thing that should make the education system work for us in Nigeria. And that's why for us as Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, we have made the issue of the state of the educational system, we have made it an issue at the front burner of all our engagements with government. We are far behind in terms of where we should be. And it behoves on everybody, every stakeholder, including the government, to be able to lift the standard of education as it is.
There you have it. So it's a joint approach, but you look at what's playing out across the world, and for a moment you just wonder, how well are we in touch? It's one thing to tout certificates and say, I have this certificate, but what can that certificate really do? What does it mean in not just today's world, tomorrow's world? Because I think it's too late to prepare for today. The world prepares for tomorrow. So let me take this to any men in Egbedion and just get a sense of how much work is going into preparing our students, our society, not just for today, but for tomorrow, and perhaps the challenges being faced, because we're talking STEM, TVET now, and not just the certificates. Any men? Yes.
Good morning, everyone. I do believe that we have a long way to go. There are a lot of things that we have not included in thinking about the future for the children. What we have right is theoretical work. We get it right with the textbooks and making sure that we're meeting, those parts of the curriculum. But the softer skills, and when it comes to STEM, we really need to increase and be more serious and more focused on preparing our children for the future, because we don't even know what the future is. We're even behind, because there's still AI. There are other things that we really need to think about, and we need to equip these children with all of these skills, because we actually don't know what the future holds. Education is changing rapidly, and as long as we teach them these skills, they'll be prepared for whatever comes their way. So STEM, AI, there's some things that we really need to start to include in the curriculum, especially in public schools.
All right, let's take it to Chirota, and let's start with the issue of curriculum. Some have said that the quality of education has dropped but the standard remains the same. Perhaps contextualizing, saying it's still 5 credits you need to get to school, but when the output is seen, it leaves nothing much to be desired. So in your view, how do we start unpacking all of this, reflecting today's reality, just to piggyback on what the first guest had said? That's Chirota.
Good morning. So the thing that Nigerians have excellently, and we are world-class at, is our diligence and our ability to actually put in an effort to garner results. The thing that we are not quite meeting up is updating our curricula, but to be able to do that, you actually need to have a consensus on how we build curricula. We actually need a return back to how we train teachers. We need to encourage teachers to be able to see a future in their career by investing in continuous professional development. And I think teachers need to not just be kind of focused on just the classroom and perhaps the administrative tasks, but more of how do we actually forge a future that makes sense for Nigeria as a whole by teaching these children. I am aware that so far, I teach in the United Kingdom, and I'm an educational strategist in the United Kingdom. I've had about a decade of a career in teaching. And so one thing that I have noticed that is similar is that in some schools, we have the IGCSE being rolled out, and it seems to be, it's becoming a global standard. If we were to follow the IGCSE and to be able to tweak that specifically to feature things that are unique to Nigeria, I think that would make quite an impact on the progress of Nigerian students and, of course, their eventual progress as people who will contribute to the economic status of Nigeria.
Let's bring it to our Lagos studio. So, Mr. Enigbidion, let's talk about what she mentioned. Mr. Mijis, my apologies. Let's talk about the things that has to do with the teacher themselves. There are so many parts to the education sector. I was looking at the budget, good numbers, 3.2 trillion naira in 2025 budget, but we're also going to look at the issues of expenditure. But let's focus on the teachers themselves. Someone had said that we had the teachers training colleges those days, and that seemed to have produced better quality teachers than what we have today. I don't know, that should be debatable. What's your stand on it, and how do we improve on it? Because it's important those who communicate these things are properly trained.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me say good morning again. We have been on this path long before now, and it's quite unfortunate that we are back to the same point at the same time. What you need to realize is this. I've always been saying it, that larger percentage of the Nigerians who are into teaching, they are there, we call them passers-by. There are people who actually take it as alternative job, just because there is nothing that they want to do at the moment, and that's why you see a lot of individuals. You have to go back to your reward system until you could recollect that in those days when you had people who are respected, who are teachers in the society, when they say they are models, they are mentors to a lot of people. They are the people that the society saw as the face, as that the set of the people who can model their kids. But today, I don't know if anybody will want their children to become a teacher, just because the society has actually reduce the kind of the attention that should be given to education. And we have always been saying this, just like you said, that it is a fulcrum for national development. There cannot be any meaningful development except to go back to that education. Somebody was here now talking about Finland. I have kids of my friends who are in Finland. Somebody who was was already supposed to be in SS1 by now in Nigeria is still in Basic 9 over there. Yeah, but the kind of the training they receive is not. They make teaching, before you can teach over there, you must have some level of quality. It is not just every Tom, Dick and Harry. But what do you have in Nigeria? You have a system that prioritizes engineering, banking. Everybody wants to go into that level because there's no reward. The reward is very poor. An average teacher goes home. Go and mark it. How many schools actually pay minimum wage, even at 30,000 50,000 naira, not to talk of 70,000 naira. So you have a lot of people who are in education, not because they are interested in education, but because they believe that it's the only one that's available at this time, and because you have a lot of mushroom schools. Everyone's springing up every time.
I wanted you to speak to that as well. Everybody has a school now.
So, yeah, because the government has failed to provide an average person. I was talking to someone yesterday. An average person wants a school that is very near to their home, where they can just drop their kids. There are conditions to meet before you can start a school. Somebody was talking about the number, in fact, the kind of the rules that the quality assurance will give you. If we really want to follow it in Nigeria, there will not be many schools. But unfortunately, an average person is just a carer or has a daycare home, and before you know it, because there are no schools around, the next thing is that he's already grooming individuals, and you have a secondary school dropout, is already teaching them, and what do you have? That's why you have local schools, you have mushroom schools. Nobody follows the standard any longer, because the government itself is really not interested in that aspect of development.
Interesting point. You know, I was chuckling because this particular conversation was what I was having with someone a few days ago. And let me just go to Dr. Salam and confirm if he aligns with Mr. Majid's point of view that a lot of people that we have in the teaching profession are passers-by. It's not their first choice, second choice, third choice. It's not something that happened and they're like, okay, let me do it since it's bringing some money. So do you agree with him?
Totally, I do. I think that is one of the fundamental problems we have with our education system in Nigeria. Like he said, most of those people who are engaged in teaching at all levels, not only at the junior levels, but even at tertiary levels, are people who are accidental teachers, so to speak, people who find themselves in teaching not because that was their first line of thought or line of interest ab initio, but because by virtue of a lot of accidents and a lot of circumstances, they find themselves into teaching, either at the primary, at the secondary, or at the tertiary levels. So at the end of the day, the implication is that many of them do not give in, because from the onset, they had not even had the intention that this would be where they are. There is nobody who is actually interested in teaching in Nigeria because of the nature of our reward system. Whereas in other parts of the world, just like Majid Alabi said, in other parts of the world, when you find teachers, there are a lot of certifications that go into teaching. But in this part of the world, just anybody could teach. Once you have some minimum certificates, once you have some minimum qualifications, then you could become a teacher. And at the end of the day, what it brings about is low content, no quality in terms of the output. And I think one of the things we need to do as a country is to streamline who becomes a teacher. We need to really come around to give a focus on how to become teachers in Nigeria. And then also we need to look at the reward system. And when I'm talking of reward system now, we are not only going to be looking at it in terms of those people who go into direct teaching. There are also a lot of ancillary services that go into the teaching. Teaching itself does not just operate in a vacuum. There are a lot of ancillary services, the environment, especially in this age of IT, the IT services, and a lot of other things, the health services, the security for teaching, because you will find out that there are a lot of schools in Nigeria today that are actually unsafe for teaching. But one way or the other, you find them being places where education or knowledge is being imparted. Right. So we need to look at the whole gamut of what makes teaching to be teaching, in terms of the environment, in terms of the security, in terms of the health services, right, in terms of the administration, and a lot of other things that would make education to be seamless in Nigeria. And once we are able to do that, we improve on the reward system, make workers who work in those educational facilities to be motivated. All right, Dr. You'll find out that it will go a very long way in determining the output and the quality of our education system in Nigeria.
You know, for a moment, I just paused to think about the thousands and millions of students in classrooms right now, and I'm wondering, what kind of education are they getting? If we have a large number of teachers, as people have described them, passes by. So naturally, I'll go to Enemian because quite a couple of points have been raised. It looks like everybody, so to speak, wants to start a school now, and then you have teachers that are not really qualified to be teachers then teaching in those schools. So it's like making a bad and already bad situation worse. So you wonder what kind of education we're getting. You started a school. So what exactly pushed you to do that? Do you belong to the category of everybody just wants to start a school and get some money? What is different with yours, Enemian?
Trust me that I don't know that everybody just wants to start a school because it's actually not that easy. It sounds easy, but running a school is actually, quite tasking. It drains your resources. You have no support from the government, really. So, it is actually not as lucrative as it appears to be. All these mushroom schools that we're mentioning, they're not really making ends meet as well, which is part of the reason they probably are unable to actually pay their teachers properly as well. So I started Arcadia because I had a passion for the early years. I wanted to ensure that they had the right building blocks to start to love to actually learn. Growing up, I remember the way we were taught is a lot of rote learning. We had to repeat things, and I didn't want that type of education for our new generation, And so I fell in love with the Montessori method, and I decided that it was something that I wanted to bring into the Nigerian space. And that was the reason for me entering into the education space. And I came in very naive, not understanding that there are a lot of factors that affect how starting a school, growing a school, the teachers, like you mentioned, we interview teachers all the time, and we have a really difficult time getting quality teachers.
Our educational system in Nigeria, we need to have a national conversation around the issue of our national philosophy. Where do we want our education system to be? When you look at today at the National Assembly, almost every member of the National Assembly is seeking to have a university established in his constituency. At the same time, every week at the Federal Executive Council, by fiat, you just find the Federal Executive Council approving the establishment of a new university. And then you now ask yourself, what exactly is the purpose of establishment of these educational systems? Is it for the purpose of public good,
Dr. Salam,
or for the
totally
purpose
out of 30
profit?
seconds, but you said
Thank you very
everyone.
much. So we need to
let's
have
go
a national
Enemian.
conversation.
All right, very vital point. Enemian, over to you now. Who or what needs to fix up or champion it?
Yeah, I believe that the government needs to champion it and to reduce the divide between the public and the private schools. Public schools should be seen as, as paramount in our society, and then private schools are an extra, So I believe that if we start with ensuring that the public schools are good, are of standard, and then everything else will flow from there.
Chirota.
Hi. So piggybacking off of what Enemian said, I agree that the government needs to champion the foundation of this, especially going in the direction of multi-academic trusts and academies being formed. But I believe that what the government needs to do is to provide some kind of incentivization for proprietors and people who own schools to actually come together and do these things. There needs to be things like either tax breaks or some kind of funding provided just for the purpose of forging these relationships to be able to spread out the resources. I think once we can have schools banding together to actually create academies or create academy trusts, right, then there will be progress made. But I believe it's the government that needs to start with that, and it's by causing some sort of financial incentivization to do this.
All right, Majid, final thoughts, 30 seconds.
Not just the government, the society as a whole. All of us, every single stakeholder must understand that education is key. Once all of us, whether in church, at home, everywhere, we must rise. Government alone cannot do it. And that is why all of us should be able to be champions of quality and affordable education in Nigeria.
You forgot to mention mosque, church, mosque.
Everywhere, even spiritual houses, herbalists, everybody must come together.
So nobody feels left out at this point.
The religious minority.
There you go.
We don't talk about those
exactly,
people anymore.
Right? Majid Alavi, Chairman, Education Writers Association of Nigeria, thank you for your time. We've also been speaking with Dr. Abdusabur Salam, National Vice President, Chairman, Western Zone, SANU, as well as Enimia Nigbenedion, founder, Arcadia School, Lagos, and Chirota Akazemia, who is an educational strategist and neurodiversity advocate. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, and may good education always win.
Amen.
Thank you. Amen.
Thank you.
Wherever did I get that from? But we'll take a moment now. When we return, we have more for you on the show. Please stay with us.